Back in the 90s, there was a special puzzle game that wasn't just about passing the time.
I feel joyful now.
But about expanding your mind.
Today, we'll break down the gameplay, uncover the drama that swirled around its positive affirmations back in the 90s, and even take a trip into the audio files to see if we can hear some of the subliminal messages ourselves.
This is the story of EndorFun, the feel-good puzzle game that made people deeply uncomfortable. We're going to actually split this video into two sections. The light, where we talk about the gameplay, the good things, and the dark, where we'll discuss how the game was perhaps misunderstood. But let's start with the light. Perfect. The gameplay was simple but hypnotic. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the music does kind of zen you out. Is that weird? You'd think it'd be annoying. Now you can play with the mouse or with the arrow keys on the keyboard, but I think I like the arrow keys better than the mouse. In less time than you might initially imagine, playing EndorFun will become virtually instinctive. So the light body cube represents the player, seeking life force on the unified field. This is the light body, the cube, that's you. You are the light body. The unified field is the playing field. It's a mosaic of squares, and the life force squares are the pulsing squares on the unified field. That is what we need to merge with, to transcend to the next level. They kind of overcomplicate the gameplay explanation. Basically, you have to roll the cube onto the colored and pulsing squares, matching what color is on the top of the cube with what's under it. Different square types have different properties, like extending the timer or clearing the board of certain colors, and each level has different looping soundtracks that allegedly have the subliminal messages. Oh, this loop is not good. An EndorFun experience can end in one of three ways. You win and you get a win screen to laud your accomplishment, or you become trapped by blocks or run out of time and you get the lose screen. But it does present you with a positive message, so you're still not completely a loser. It's a simple concept, unless you struggle with 3D spatial awareness, like me. With that being said, after playing for a little while, I did find that they were correct, and you start to be able to instinctively kind of move around, but it did take a good 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay before I felt confident enough to kind of zen out while playing it, which is their intention for the game. I lost, but love myself. Oh. All is well. The philosophy of EndorFun. I kept wanting to call it EndorFun until I realized, positive affirmations, endorphin, like endorphins, like the hormone that improves stress and mood. So I don't know if it's supposed to be EndorFun or endorphin, but it's probably meant to be more like endorphin. I'm gonna go with that, but it could be wrong. Our intention was to create more than a game, more than a diversion. We wanted let's start over. We wanted EndorFun to be beautiful, to enrich your consciousness, and to be fun. We make this offering to you in the spirit of peace to all the sisters and brothers, love to all the mothers and fathers, light to all the daughters and sons, utmost gratitude to the life force. So, with this opening, with the sun in the background and the window and that verbiage, I mean, I can kind of see why people in the 90s were a little skeptical. They thought, was it just a clever way to sneak subliminal messaging into our brains? The minds behind EndorFun, One Song Partners Incorporated, called themselves a collection of artists and entrepreneurs. The mission of One Song Partners Incorporated is to benefit humanity and to demonstrate that consciousness and goodwill are, in every way, the most profitable business practices. Some of the background music in the game is more zen and calming, but others, especially in the harder levels, start to go kind of hard, like this one with the slap bass. You are free. You deserve love, happiness, and prosperity. That's a nice way of saying you lose again. This level is called meditation. I have my little friend here, Thomas Eugene Paris. He's gonna keep me company while I finish up this last level. He flew away 1 minute later, but anyway, it took me 30 minutes to beat the beginner game, and finally I was able to claim my prize of the winning screen. The universe cares for me. As the cube turns, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed. That's all you get. You might as well just lose the game. Just kidding, but still. It's funny to think about how EndorFun was so ahead of its game. If this were to be released as a mindfulness app today, it would probably be celebrated instead of questioned, which we'll get into that more in a bit. But basically, things are different now. We're more forward thinking, and the idea of weaving personal growth into entertainment is now something that we embrace. And as someone who's always been a little curious and maybe just a little nerdy, I am excited to share this video sponsor, which is Brilliant. I love learning. I always have. It's why I read manuals from cover to cover when I got new software as a kid, and it's why I watch tutorials when I want to learn something new. But Brilliant takes this to a whole new level. Brilliant is a platform where you learn by doing, with thousands of hands-on lessons in topics like math, data analysis, programming, and AI. Right now, for example, I'm refreshing my knowledge in their programming course, and I've already picked up skills I plan to use in future videos, which is just lovely. The lessons are easy to fit into my daily routine, even if all I have is a few minutes. It's nice to be able to not just learn, but begin applying what you're learning right away with their built-in exercises. I feel like I'm watching an infomercial at 3 a.m. You can try Brilliant free for 30 days by visiting brilliant.org/hark or scanning the QR code on the screen. Plus, you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription when you sign up. But if only EndorFun could have been seen for what it is, with their philosophy to uplift and energize your heart and soul. But now we've reached the second section of the video. The dark. Because not everyone was ready to embrace the cube of joy. Here it talks about the subliminal messages that are in EndorFun. We have intentionally used the power of subliminal messages for a positive and uplifting purpose in a computer/video game which has the potential to hold your attention for hours on end. They're supposed to be sub-audible, so they're put in the music at a point where you're not supposed to consciously register them. Here we have a list of the subliminal messages in EndorFun. Things like, I am safe. My heart is filled with joy. I am loved. I'm healthy. I read a bunch of these and it clocked in at about 2 minutes, so we're just gonna skip over that so you're not here all day. Interestingly, EndorFun was later remade as Ku An Pa, a version of the game that completely removed the affirmations. While the core puzzle mechanics remained intact, the shift away from the subliminal messaging gave it a cleaner slate, stripping away the controversy but also some of its unique, albeit divisive, charm. Articles like this one from the Seattle Times raised concerns about the ethics of subliminal messages. Were these affirmations harmless, or were they a Pandora's box of unintended effects? The article says that EndorFun is the first software openly containing subliminals to be marketed to a mass audience. In fact, EndorFun was almost included on the sample disk that would come with the Windows 95 operating system, but the program manager for it said that if Windows was to include the software on the disks, it would have had to have been subliminal free. And he was a proponent for subliminals. EndorFun was also criticized in this BBC News segment from 1995.
It includes more than 100 subliminal messages hidden in the music.
One interviewee even described the subliminal messages in EndorFun as being downright immoral.
What they're trying to do is to affect the child's mind beneath the level of consciousness, and that seems to me an immoral thing to do.
Unfortunately, as we see from these articles and from this news segment, the 90s was just not the right time to introduce these concepts in the form of what most people saw as an invasive video game. Now it's time to take a closer look at the audio and see if we can find some of the hidden messages. The music in the game is credited as being recorded by the O Band. Some of it is upbeat, and as you heard, some of it is more ethereal or ambient. But as I kept playing, I came across a few tracks that sounded a bit more ominous. I brought some of the individual loops into Logic and started to play around with them. I tried EQing, phase inversion, reversing audio, slowing or increasing the tempo. For some reason, I really thought that we'd be able to find just a shred of the messages. I have an idea of what the speech would sound like from a very few select loops from the game that had the speech audible.
Free. I'm free. I am free.
I don't know why, but something kept bringing me back to this particularly terrifying loop. I took it and slowed it down in Logic, and the more that I listened, the more it appeared that some of what seemed like instruments actually played back with human-like speech patterns. After isolating them a bit, it appears that the audio was likely masked through techniques like pitch transposition, aggressive EQ filtering, and maybe even some modulation effects to obscure the clarity while still letting the subconscious pick up on them. Or at least that was the intent. In reality though, some of these loops sound much less like joyful affirmations and more like,
I am terrified. I don't belong here. Why would they make it sound like this?
I played around for a long time with that audio, and no matter what I tried, I could not get any of the affirmations to come to the surface. If you're intrigued by the music in the game, you might be interested to know that a full companion album was actually released for a limited time in 1995. The only way to get it, as far as I'm aware, was by mail order using a voucher in the original box. Thankfully, despite its rarity, someone was able to rip the full album, and I've listed the link to their video in the description box below so that you can hear it. I want to thank this YouTube user for their suggestion. Please keep them coming. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up today's episode of Crazy Hark's amazing emporium of total retro madness, and sometimes other things too. The credits feature the names of my wonderful patrons who support this channel with their patronage. Thanks for watching, and remember,
The cube knows all.